Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. We are moving into the end of January 2022 now. Cloud Imperium are finally getting back to their normal weekly content. So we've got a roadmap update inside Star Citizen Live, all coming this week, and Xenothreat 3.0, I think, starting Friday. However, today I wanted to look at the monthly reports for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, focusing on AI, engine, and graphics development. Basically, bits that we left out of the other two summaries that we've previously done, and you can see those on my channel. But what have Cloud Imperium been working on over the last 10 or so weeks, and what are they working on now in regards to AI, engine, and graphics? The AI content team as a whole closed out 2021, creating feature test maps for AI behaviors and usables. Feature test maps are autonomous new testing processes that run each day and print out reports, which enable the team to identify bugs significantly quicker than before. The team are testing approximately 50 usables and 20 AI behaviors that can be interacted with by the player. Typically, a usable has between 3 and 6 directions of approach and the same number of exits. With so many permutations, automating the process was essential. So you can have AI and NPCs just walking in, interacting with like a fuse box or some wires or a bar or a part of a bar or a person, and they need to work out how these are going to interact at all these different angles, and if a player approaches and if they get broken up and all that sort of jazz. AI content continued to improve the bartenders and patrons for Alpha 3.16 and added more drinks options, including Cuba Libres and Mai Tais. Busy work animations were created for when the bartender isn't serving, including stretching, glass cleaning, and shelf organizing. Idle facial expressions were also added. So it's sort of a meme and a bit of a joke in the Star Citizen community with the bartenders, because the bartender tech is a representation of them trying to bring a AI NPC into full fruition into the persistent universe as quickly as possible. Now, there's so much to do getting this AI fully polished and finished, and they've been doing it for many years now. Now, obviously they're doing loads of other AI updates at the same time, but they're trying to get to its social sort of aspect and the ability to interact and do all its tasks in and polished. But yeah, as I said, there's still a lot to do. They also began implementing animation assets for the vending and arcade machines, and also closed out coffee shop usables, or started to close them out. For Squadron 42 specific focus content, they focused on getting deck crew activity, bringing life and movement to hangars and landing pads. The next step is to build on the basic functionality to make the whole crew work together to restore full functionality to damaged ships and vehicles. So eventually this leads to things like, well, having NPC crew in game, or having a capital ship in game that actually acts truly like a capital ship. If it's an NPC run one, so they can get damaged, they can repair their ship, they can be disabled for a long period of time, but they will try and survive, they will try and fix themselves. They also worked on security behavior, which controls player and NPC access to specific areas. For example, guards can now check the criminality rank and affinity of those who approach and act accordingly, denying or allowing them access or saluting a character of a higher rank, though just for military guards currently. This activity will be used for bouncers and mall cops in the future after additional mocap has been processed. AI features worked on feature test levels, setting up tests to repeat with different starting conditions alongside identifying and fixing bugs. The feature test levels are useful for showing other teams existing functionality and how to use it, allowing familiarity with the technology and the ability to maintain quality across the board. Squadron 42 AI features focused on improving human combat. This involved adjusting the perception systems to support NPCs perceiving dead or incapacitated bodies and reacting as intended. If not already in combat, the first AI to find the body will go and check and then trigger investigative behaviors. In the future, some incapacitated bodies will be able to be revived, healed, or released from captivity by an appropriate agent. With weapons training behavior, which includes using firing range simulators, the AI needs to be able to target neutral non-agents tagged for a particular lane so that different agents can use training simulators at the same time. This involved updating the observable and perception components to make them more data-driven and compatible with the firing ranges. These changes are also making it easier to support other targetable objects in the future, such as objects that agents might want to sabotage or destroy to further the gameplay. For Vandal combat, a section of gameplay was completed where enemy perception is reduced when searching for the player. This led to how to implement low visibility and other sense reductions across the board. They then prototyped prototyped the initial implementation for this specific gameplay use, which will be used as a springboard for fully developing the feature. AI animation, the team there worked on mocap for cowering and surrendering animations, hit reactions from different stances, the speed protocol of animations for dead body reactions, and vandal attack and search animations. AI Tech finished their work on the initial version of planetary navigation. Once implemented, a navigation mesh will be created on planetary surfaces, and actors and NPCs will be able to use it to find paths and move along them. If you want AI and NPCs to be able to go from space to air to ground and reinforce missions and have more interesting missions where more things can happen, we need this. We need sort of AI cargo ships to be able to move between those zones so that we see them around the verse, and bounties to move all around. The team continued to refactor the AI weapon controller used by ship AI, this time focusing on improving missile turrets and accuracy. New collision avoidance tech was also added for use in narrow areas and spaces with complex concave objects. The team also went back to the AI trolley push and pull feature to help the designers begin to use it. They continue to refine the path follow tech, improving functionality by setting usables linked to a path. NPCs will be able to follow the path and stop and use the linked usables. Alongside this, they investigated and fixed several issues with NPC aiming, looking, and locomotion, most of which involved synchronization issues between servers and clients. Progress was made on the subsumption editor tool. The team now has all the base elements in place so that designers and programmers can start using it to create missions and NPC behaviors. I'm hoping this starts to mean we're going to see much more complex and at least better missions, more meaty missions in the Star Citizen Persistent Universe later this year. Let's take a look at some engine work. The physics team worked on a variety of topics such as quantum grids changing to use one per solar system, grid overlap checks being unified for planets and other entities, and physics constraints receiving support for limiting the gravity tilt angles for them. So further work was done on the transition to Gen12 regarding atmosphere and cloud rendering. R&D on the reprojection of frame data without the need for motion vectors didn't yield satisfactory results, unfortunately. Therefore, they stick with the current reprojection scheme for the time being to improve image quality nonetheless. Research started on noise reduction of the original ray march results that are then fed into the filter chain to produce final full resolution images. In general, the code was unified in various areas and prepared for integration upstream into the main development branch as preparation for the coming transition of all atmosphere and cloud rendering to the Gen12 system. Graphics stuff. So, more to that. The graphics team completed a significant amount of work on shaders and materials, with one of the main focuses being updating volumetric water lighting. There are also several bug fixes for water volumes in general. The hair shader also received attention. They completed the shader conversion from the old DirectX 9 style and kicked off the opaque ice crystals and crystal shader that they've been wanting to work on. As it's opaque, the shader will be cheap to use extensively. Specifically for Squadron 42, the team supported cinematics by optimizing letterbox rendering in cutscenes, investigating issues with camera cut brightness, and looked into image stabilization for offline rendering. For Gen12 renderer stuff, the team implemented a fallback rendering system called Parse Group Fallbacks for use when the shaders are compiling. For Vulkan, they continued with the GPU marker refactor. Development of fire hazard features continued, with the VFX programming team moving heat and temperature to the physics proxy, working on IR emission and fixing various bugs with the temperature component, and look at debug cameras. Salvage-wise, an investigation was made into the networking of damage map data, as well as implementing placeholder interfaces to unblock the game coders. The main damage map features are being worked on in Q1. You want salvage locations, you want things to salvage, you want things to use your vulture on. Well, they're working on it and making it look pretty. Numerous updates were made to particles. There were also bug fixes for flashing and black particles, emitter bound calculations, and shock diamonds. I'm going to admit something. I don't know what all of those things are for particles in their entirety. Lots of different pretty particles and optimizations for them. That's basically what I read from that. Finally, a number of performance updates and improvements were made for gas clouds and VFX for them. destruction and impacts, lots of entity effects, as well as generally utilizing CPU cores more efficiently as they continue to improve the entity update component scheduler. Boom! That's it for your AI engine and graphics updates for Star Citizen and Squadron this time. Sometimes, when I'm reading the engine and graphics stuff, I go, I don't understand all of it, so I've tried to crush it and compound it down into something that is more understandable, or at least relevant or in context, because there's a lot of fluff I find in these, or stuff that is genuinely written as if you're describing it to another sort of technician or someone of your level that's doing exactly the same work and feature, and that's not necessarily something you want to hear in an update when they talk about actual lines of code or stuff that they've changed specifically. I want to talk about more what it means for the game and put that in context. Anyway, as we move into 2022, I'm expecting to see development at a quicker pace, especially in Q3, Q4 of this year, after all of the offices have moved and expanded and they've all sort of come online and the new hires are starting to settle in, that sort of stuff, because there's a big expansion this year. Chris Roberts and stuff moved to the UK, and Jared seems to have moved operation to the UK for Star Citizen videos, all to get Squadron 42 finished out and development at a quicker pace, all that sort of jazz. That's the hope. But what do you think? Are you hoping to see the full Gen12 renderer and Vulkan integration by the end of the year? Are you happy with the progress that the engine and AI have made? AI, for example, I think is probably one of the weakest things in Star Citizen's persistent universe at the moment. But that's because it's sort of placeholder kind of at the moment. Really, with AI features, you need them all to come together and not be an alpha. It needs to be a lot further along and then be in our hands for us to go, is this any good? So at the moment, it's as I said, not great, and I'm waiting to see better AI. Although, admittedly, in Xenothreat 3.0, they did engage me, and they were actually a lot better than they have been previously. But I'm interested to know what people think of the AI in the game now, and when they play in Xenothreat 3.0, potentially from Friday onwards, and tell me what you think of the AI then in 3.16.1, which I'm expecting to be out by then, strangely enough. But whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What is best in life? To crush your enemies? To see them driven before you? And to hear the lamentations of their women? No, of course not. It's NordVPN. I never saw Conan the Barbarian checking his bank balance and then watching some cool shows on Netflix, all while protecting his privacy and being super secure. To be honest, I can't even remember Conan wearing a shirt. Silly Conan. And now, a big old snake god's got your internet history. Good job. Don't be a Conan the Barbarian. Check out NordVPN. Links below for powerful discounts too. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For January 2022, it's for a Drake Cutlass Steel, a light assault dropship variant of the Cutlass, perfect for attacking Jumptown and similar narcotic processing areas. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that Star Citizen ship is comment on any of my videos made during the month. More details down below. If you would like to further support the channel, consider clicking the join button under my videos or becoming a Patreon. Comments, suggestions, likes and shares all help the channel massively too, so always feel welcome to share your opinion or feedback. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the verse.